This is a really good video guy, Star Run. He doesn't have that many videos, but all of them are really good.
In the game, here in Stormvale Castle, lies one of the more egregious and less well known
What are the mistakes in game?
From this balcony overlooking the grafted scion found on the ground floor, all we have to do is turn around and walk a few steps until we reach this doorway. Now jump onto this part of the parapet, and slowly moving toward the wall will reveal that it's actually completely intangible, and you can just clip right through it. You can jump on top of this little staircase, and from there, jump onto the ceiling of this room, and from here, well, you can't really do anything except fall into the void. Finally, jumping into this juncture where the bridge meets the wall will cause this to happen. This can occur in a ton of places throughout the game, and it's not really worth mentioning any others, but it's right here, so I felt it's a good time to mention that, this is a thing that happens throughout the game. While in Stormvale, we come across Godric, most players' first great room. Afterwards, we gain access to the Divine Tower of Limgrave, and typically at the top of one, you can see every other Divine Tower if you look off in the distance. For whatever reason though, from Caelid's, you can't see the Divine Tower of Limgrave at all. This doesn't happen the other way around, so you can clearly see Caelid's tower from Limgrave's. There could be an argument made for some lore shit with carrying magic or something, but frankly, this explanation is pretty shaky for something that's probably just an oversight. Speaking of Limgrave, on the west side, along the coast, we can find a small patch of fog floating just above the continental shelf. This wouldn't really be all that notable, but it's the only instance in the entire game of a cloud of fog like this on a beach, as far as I can tell.
Right.
Feels there's nothing at all internally linked to it, so it's just completely useless, and reads as simply being misplaced during development to me. Outside of the old Altus tunnel, we come across a few giants that have a stake with a chain attached stabbed through their back. These guys fight with their hands and feet until you get them to about half health, at which point they do this. They'll draw a sword from their back, and the stake and chain will literally just disappear.
Would have been cool if they pull it out.
The sword is, of course, completely missing from his back beforehand, and
unplayable.
it's the same model that the snow giants use. So it's pretty reasonable to assume that the developers just reused the script from those guys, applied it to these guys, and simply never added a proper animation. A ways northeast of the old Altus tunnel, we can find a traveling caravan pulling along a carriage that holds a chest containing the great stars. Normally, with just about any other carriage in the game, you simply can't open the chest while it's still being transported. You gotta knock the giants down beforehand.
Well, somewhere here you can.
However,
I don't know
this
why.
chest allows you to jump on while it's moving and get the loot. This could be intentional, I guess, but I don't understand why the developers would make this one specific carriage lootable and not, every other one, with seemingly no rhyme or reason as to why. It just doesn't really make sense to me. Within the Altus Plateau, you can also come across ancient dragon Landsax, and this dragon's name kind of stands out amongst the other ancient dragons. I mean, we have Grandsax, the dead dragon in Landel, Fortisax in the Deeproot Depths, Dragon Placidusax in Faramazula, obviously, as well as Florisax and Senesax, both found in the DLC. All of their names end in sax. And considering how ancient dragons have stone scales, this part of their names is likely derived from the Latin word saxum, which means large stone. Using Latin, we can derive rough translations of all of the ancient dragons' names. Among this list though, Landsax is definitely the odd one out, ending in SEAX instead of just SAX, and because of that, I'm pretty confident in saying it's just a simple mistranslation. It was likely meant to be something like either of these, roughly meaning the mountain spear or the mountain javelin. Which makes sense given that incantation she drops is kind of an upgraded lightning spear. After fighting and defeating her, there's a church a little way to the west of here, and around it we can find a couple of golden roas and a mushroom, but I would like to specifically point out this golden roa that lies outside the northwest corner of the church. It's actually completely impossible to pick up this one plant for whatever reason. This isn't even the only time it happens, actually.
The elder
There's at least
plant.
a couple I know of, and probably a few I don't. But one other plant is located a little east of the East Raya Lucaria Gate Grace, here.
I definitely found one of these that you cannot pick up.
This time, it's a mushroom that can't be picked up.
100%.
Dog shit fucking game.
True.
Kinda related to these, there's one other, just completely inconsequential mistake with another crafting material, the turtle neck meat. Taking a look at its description, we can see this erroneous capital I in the middle of the sentence. Dog shit fuck. I do have one final crafting material mistake with the toxic.
I mean, devs could watch this and like list all the mistakes. They could like patch it in like an afternoon.
Mushrooms found in Kaled. Their description reads, a skilled hand can repurpose its toxic
I don't know if they
mold
want to.
into an effective ward against scarlet rot. Reading this description,
They look at the game as being complete, so they are not gonna.
be reasonable of you to
They
assume
just do like
that you
server
could craft this
maintenance.
into something like a preserving bolus, a consumable that alleviates scarlet rot buildup, but you can't craft anything like that with the mushrooms. The only items you can craft are roped and normal poison pots, which cause poison buildup, as well as rot pots, which cause scarlet rot buildup.
Or the big
The
one.
opposite of what its description tells us skilled hands can do. Maybe we're just not skilled enough, I don't know. Speaking of the preserving bolus, there's actually a typo in its description as well, where the misspelled ailment.
I meant.
Dog. There's a handful more of these, but frankly, they're not all that interesting, so I'll skip
Maybe it's
them
just a
and continue on
translation
with,
guy
you know,
fucking up.
slightly more interesting things. From the Landsax fight, we can make our way into the capital outskirts and eventually Lanedale itself, as well as the sewer system that lies below it. Within the sewer, near the underground roadside site of Grace, we can find a staircase leading further into the earth and, eventually, to Moog the Omen. However, right at the top of the stairs, if we angle our camera all the way up, or just use a free cam, we can see what looks like the sky, with sunlight streaming down through the set of beams.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Now, let's set a marker down to mark our place and go up to the surface. It leads to here, shortly after our first entrance into Lanedale, and turns out to just be a bunch of buildings instead of a hole, like you'd expect. I'd like to mention another strange thing that happens in the sewer, but this one is all the way down near the bottom
The
of the area,
slugs.
found behind Moog the Omen. After fighting him, the altar behind him hides a path which leads to a pit and short platforming area where you descend it by dropping
Is
down
it that you can,
various
like,
ledges until
cheese
you
to
reach the
end?
ground floor. Once there, dropping down a final time will break the floor and you'll land in this room, which contains the conclusion to Hayata's questline and the Three Fingers. As indicated by this symbol, this area is actually considered a safe space by the game after the initial drop-in. Kind of like the Round Table Hold or, I don't know, Volcano Manor, and as a result of that, if you go back to the top afterwards, this is what happens when you drop in.
Open. What?
Anyway, leaving the sewer, continuing with the normal progression.
I definitely have to like go back after going down, and I never seen this happen that you survive it.
This is what happens when you drop in.
I have to do the full parkour again.
Anyway, leaving the sewer, continuing with the normal progression of the game, will lead you to fight Morgott to gain access to the entrance of the Erd Tree. I actually want to point out something a little strange in this cutscene. Right here, we see him pick up his weapon, sort of bring it down in front of his face for intimidation.
It was different color in the first
This
version.
movement doesn't really make any sense here. He picks up his weapon with his hand down and palm facing out, and just a few seconds later, with no cut, his hand is up and palm facing in. I mean, try it out yourself. Physically, it just doesn't really work. Like, you could do the movement, but it would be pretty awkward, and you'd have to move the sword around your body in a weird way. So, if it doesn't work, then how the hell did he do it in the cutscene?
He's a demigod,
Well,
that's how.
fortunately, we can set up a free cam to get to the bottom of this.
Just teleport.
You know, I don't think risks really work like that, but honestly, within the cutscene, it's all pretty seamless, so it's not too big of a deal. After beating Morgott, you, of course, gain access to the Erd Tree's entrance, but we're blocked by impenetrable thorns that refuse all because none may enter the Erd Tree. I mean, come on, everybody knows that. So, we're told to go to the Forge of the Giants and given the Rolled Medallion to access the lift that brings us there.
I remember not figuring out how to get here for a long time.
On our way over there, I would like to point out one of my favorite enemies in the game. If we ignore the stairs up and head right instead, we come across a dog and a misbegotten
It doesn't attack, it doesn't have attacking AI, but they might have fixed it recently.
warrior at the end of the path. Now, the misbegotten will aggro onto you and can be dealt with as normal.
Did they fix it okay?
This dog here
Maybe
is
it was a
actually
mod.
completely passive to the player, just like the crow in Hemwick Charnel Lane in Bloodborne. The dog will remain passive unless attacked, in which case you can just save and quit to reset him back to the chill-ass dude he normally is.
Good dog.
Interestingly, you can cause the dog to aggro to you without attacking by traveling all the way up to this area next to the Langdale
Because yeah, his
Coliseum
aggro is
and then running
there.
all the way back. Returning to the dog afterwards will cause this to happen.
His
This
aggro
happens
range
for
is
a really
there.
interesting reason, but I would just be repeating one of Zoli the Witch's videos, so go watch that if you haven't.
What?
Or else.
That's crazy that he didn't end it, he just like watched this guy
Continuing
instead.
on the path, up the stairs will eventually lead us to the lift that takes us to the Forbidden Lands and puts us on our way to the Grand Lift of Rold. But just before that lies a big old bridge. There's something I want to show off really quickly here, now that we have a bunch of space to work with. If we crouch and spam roll, and compare it with just normally spamming roll, we can see that the former is actually quite a bit faster than just mashing roll normally. This is probably due to your character briefly resetting to their previous state between rolls, and because crouching keeps your character closer to the ground, their model has to move less than if they were resetting back to standing, and that results in very slightly quicker rolls.
I fast strat. Next playthrough, I'm just rolling like crouching.
We'll come across the Grand Lift of Rold itself, take it up, and from here, we can eventually stumble upon the giant conquering hero's grave. Within it, we can find a shadow variant of the Erd Tree burial watchdogs. Now, normally to fight these guys, you have to leash them into this light on the ground to make them vulnerable. However, if we parry and riposte one of them, they'll just take damage like normal. This won't make them tangible or anything, but you can kill one of them with just ripostes.
I don't know if it's faster than just the light method.
Continuing on with the game, we ignite the Erd Tree and make our way to crumbling Fair Missoula and encounter the Godskin duo. During this fight, for a short while after killing one of the duo, you can deal damage to its corpse, and it'll still affect the health bar, just like the Four Kings from Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's classic FromSoft. Yeah, you can cheese a bit.
You can even proc bleed or frostbite in this state, though neither will
Enemies
affect the
heal
actual
that for
health,
some reason.
only the swings themselves will. Speaking of the Godskin duo,
I always do this. I always do this on this duo fight. I do an extra 1 or 2 attack in for
pretty
free.
frustrating to fight, partly due to their apparent input reading, resulting in a thrown fireball as soon as you attempt to heal.
See? I knew that the input read.
However, we can kind of abuse this on some enemies. One example that works pretty well is Blythe here, whenever he invades you at Ainsel River.
Spoiler.
He approaches quite slowly, so set up inside of this cavern with a bow and shoot an arrow as he nears the entrance. This will obviously cause him to dodge.
Okay.
However, the game won't take into account where you're actually aiming, so if we just aim next to him, he'll simply dodge into it.
Idiot.
This is honestly generally useless, as it's rare for enemies to be at a perfect distance like this and only
Idiot
dodge
furring.
properly. Disregarding that, after the Godskin duo, you gain access to
For
the
sure,
Old
check.
Lord's Talisman, something that's pretty
I got
clearly
cold.
made in the image of Placidusax. However, there's a slight inconsistency between the talisman and the dragon's actual model. On the talisman, there are 4 heads. On
Yes.
his actual body, there's 2 heads still attached and 3 that have been severed.
Yes,
On top of
5
that,
hands.
We know where 2 of his heads went, as we can see them still biting down on Bale. So, where's the 3rd?
I
To
ate
be
it.
fair though, the talisman could be explained by Placidusax losing his 5th head in some other battle before the talisman was created, canonically I guess. Anyway,
Wouldn't be
progressing
symmetric
through
with
Fair
5 hands.
Missoula into the now ash-filled Leyndell leads us to Godfrey's corporeal body and, eventually, his true form, Hoaraloo. There's a really interesting out-of-bounds glitch we can do here.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty easy to pull off.
Can jump down and
After fighting
cheese him.
Gideon, exit his arena and take a left to this nice little gazebo. Jump over the railing and land on the pedestal holding it up. You want to land on this support, so look northwest and aim at the 2nd pillar from the right.
You can like
Equip Hand
put
of
him to 1
Millennium
HP.
and use its Ash of War 3 times. Now, we want to make our way to the next pillar over, just 1 level lower. So, look right and use the Ash of War 3 more times to land 1
And
level
this
below
carry.
where we were on the next pillar. Walk around the pillar and jump down to these rocks. Keep going forward and take a left around this weird hitbox.
How did they
Go
figure
past
this
these
out?
trees,
They saw
and at this
his...
final one.
Are they
Jump
there?
up to the right onto this rock. Now,
I guess
we're
someone-
under the stairs
I don't know.
that lead to Godfrey's arena. So keep running forward for a bit, and then veer
Someone
right
just-
onto these stones.
Ran at the pillar.
At this point, we're directly below Godfrey's
Wanted to go out of bounds for fun.
and running into this wall will reveal that it doesn't have a hitbox and was hiding Hoaraloo's model. He's here the whole time, and will simply get transported up whenever the game needs him to replace Godfrey.
I guess he could
Strangely, he's
have
even able to
been
be targeted
under the map.
down here, though it seems like the hitbox is disabled. For whatever reason, the hitbox of the 2nd pillar you have to land on changes after the Erd tree is lit on fire. So, attempting to do this before that point will result in this happening.
You thought? Oof.
The developers did this with the Godskin duo, which has an extra apostle below their arena to act
Yeah.
as the main health bar, as well as basically every boss that has a different form in its 2nd phase. So I won't mention any more, but just know they're down there, lurking. I thought the Hoaraloo one was especially worth
Just like
mentioning, though,
Dark Souls
because
1, the 4 kings, there is 1 king under the map, and that guy has the HP, and the others are just transferring the HP.
you can actually go see him in game without cheating.
That's how they have 1 half bar.
Within the realm of shadow lies the Scorpion River Catacombs, and there used to be a really egregious pair of walls with no clipping, so you could literally just walk through them. The developers patched this out shortly after the DLC released, of course, but there remains a set of bones just outside the playable area. There is another strange thing we can find down here.
Yeah, those eyes are so weird.
In shadow of the Erd Tree.
Doesn't make
most
sense.
of you remember these basilisk statues that shoot out eye orbs towards the player, which constantly build up death blight while in line of sight. These statues are completely indestructible, but the eyes are technically considered to be NPCs by the game, and therefore have health. Now, normally they can't be harmed. Attacks will just go through them. But if we use something that applies a damage over time effect, like the Destined Death Ash of War from Malekith's Black Blade, we can actually kill them. Because they were never intended to be killed, there's no animation, and the only indications they're dead are the death blight buildup completely stopping, as well as them disappearing, but only after arriving at their spawn point.
They are not gonna spawn anymore.
Saving and quitting and reloading causes this to happen.
Right?
While making your way up the jagged peak, you'll be assailed by a bunch of lightning strikes. The developers achieve this in a pretty interesting way. You see, if we make character meshes visible, it reveals a typically invisible model around each area the strikes land. There's no way to interact with them, their hitbox is disabled.
But they just target that.
However, after reaching the top of the mountain and killing Bale, the lightning on the path will completely stop.
I never knew that.
Much more interesting than that though, is how you can actually now lock on to these markers they used and even attack them. Using something like the Sentry's Torch, an item which typically reveals invisible enemies, won't do anything, and as far as I can tell, the model of the enemy itself is just completely blank. There's no way to see what they look like. They only have 39 health, so basically any weapon will just instantly kill them. However, just kicking them or using something like a ruin fragment will keep them alive, though they'll never become hostile or anything.
That's funny.
Speaking of the Sentry's Torch, I'd like to mention this weird animation quirk that occurs with another torch, specifically Nanaya's torch, found here within Midra's Manse. While running with this torch held up, your character's upper body simply won't move like it should. Specifically note their shoulders just kinda not really moving at all on the left. Well, that's all I got. I'm sure I missed some, so if you know of any, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
I'm surprised he did DLC stuff too, but he didn't have that much stuff for DLC.
For watching.
I guess people didn't find more stuff for the DLC.